We are recording, just so you know. And I'll let you in here in about 3 minutes.
Okay. Mr. Shepard.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Tim.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, except I can't. Joe, that file is too big.
Oh, no.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I can send it as standard resolution. Sorry, Bob. I'm trying to send something to Joe.
I completely understand. That's what I've been doing just a little while ago.
I just got your email about the people that need the link, Bob. I'm sending it to them now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It appears to be the same size. Okay. Well, I'm going to try this, Joe, and see if you can. Oh, okay.
Okay, we got 8 people in the waiting room. It's 12:58. Actually, very excited for this training.
Training? Oh, no. Training is moderating. Training is what Shepard does. I think as still a district official, he could probably just do this, and I could just kind of hang around and make snarky comments in this chat room.
Yes, that's a great idea, Bob. My advice, go in debt, go deep in debt. The government will bail you out.
That's exactly right. Apply for that second round of PPP and hope you get it.
Yep.
You guys are too funny. I'm going to open the doors.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now I'm nervous. I've got the pass in here and I've got the incoming in here. I don't know if I can handle this or not. And Bill.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bill.
Oh, I don't want to deal with him.
Well, I understand. So I want to thank my co-leaders in this discussion here as to giving all the advice and counsel. Because I'm going to make up stuff through this entire deal.
You're babbling, Bob.
And that's changed how?
I wanted to make sure you knew.
Okay, do we wait a while here, Josephine?
Yeah, we can start whenever you want. We have about 30 people, and so about half are here, but you can start whenever you're ready.
The important half, I assume.
Hi, Andrea. Hi, Tim. Hi, Robin. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Hello. Josephine's going to mute me, I'm sure.
This is an interactive training. If it's okay with Bob, we can talk as much as we want.
Where'd you get that background?
Marlene, thank you for not telling me the score yesterday. That was a hell of a game.
Wasn't it?
Oh, man.
It was good. And Bob,
Clark, are you talking about not knowing the score of something? You DVR'd it and watched it later? Or?
Yes.
Nuggets game. It was on yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I, several years ago, had some guard stuff to do, as usual, on a Sunday. And so I say to one of my sons, I say, hey, would you please record the Packer game for me? And he says, sure, Dad, I'll do that. And so the whole day I'm telling everybody, don't tell me the score of the Packer game. Don't tell me the score of the Packer game. My son's recording it. I don't want to know. So I'm successful. I go the whole day, don't know. I get home and I say to my son, David, I say, David, did you record the game for me? He says, yes, I did, Dad, and you're not going to like it.
Thanks.
That's good. All right, it's close to 1, I think, isn't it? Let's go ahead and get started anyway. First of all, Josephine's running this show. I'm trying to step in every so often here. But first of all, thank you all for taking time out, an hour out of your Sunday here to go through what treasurers do. I know some of you have had are seasoned veterans at this, and others may be just starting out in the treasurer function. But I'll say from experience too, I don't think between the treasurer and the secretary function, this is one of the hardest jobs in Kiwanis, primarily because you guys hold the purse strings to the club, and you can tell the president now we don't have any money. So that's there's a lot of power here, but I want to make this sort of an interactive discussion. I reached out to you to see what was on your mind. I got several good comments, trying to incorporate that in the process. We also have, I think, some resources from the treasurer's training that KI has that we will send out as well. So with that, what do we do next year, Josephine?
It's up to
my
co-host
share my screen or what?
whenever you're ready.
And speaking of being a Zoom novice, so what has to happen now?
So the bottom, there's the share screen. It's like a green arrow. You click on that, you should be able to find the PowerPoint.
Sure. My apologies, because yes. Not sure, Josephine, what I'm doing something wrong here.
Technology.
Would you like to share it, Bob?
Yeah, hang on just a minute.
Did you bring your cursor down to the bottom of your screen and have a bunch of stuff pop up?
I did, and it
doesn't
says
say
share, but it doesn't have anything. It says Microsoft PowerPoint unknown. And when I try to share that, it says allow Zoom to share your screen. And it says open system preferences.
Share screen.
Bob's working between an Apple and a Microsoft. That's always frustrating.
That wasn't the word I was going to use, but it is Sunday, so. Do you want to, yeah, let's just bail on this one, Josephine. If you don't mind, can you share that and we can just
Not
kind
at
of
all.
go
It's totally.
will I have control on that then, or do I just ask you to do whatever?
When to switch slides.
Okay, now is this you or me now?
This is
So let's
me.
start. Go ahead and start the slideshow, please.
Okay. You want to start here, Bob?
I'm here, but it hasn't launched.
Can you guys see what I'm seeing? It says the basics.
There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Everybody see that now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of this is through the resources, and I would encourage all of you to jump in and ask questions, especially with each other, because this is a forum to share best ideas and best practices and stuff that you guys have just made up over the years. Just going over the basics here. The duties of a club treasurer. Again, you hold the purse strings, you maintain the financial accounts, you present financial reports to the board. However often the board meets, that's encouraged to do that. You assist to prepare the annual budget. I'm working with the president on that. You maintain the club financial records, and then you prepare and file whatever the couple of government reports that are needed. Any comments or thoughts on that?
I have a question, Bob.
Yes, Marlene.
The whole reason I'm here, I'm not treasurer, I'm not going to be treasurer, but we had an issue come up this last year while I was president that our treasurer thought I was supposed to prepare the budget and give it to him, and didn't realize that's what he thought until 2/3 of the way through the year. Who is really responsible for preparing the budget?
That sounds like classic Kiwanis communication, Marlene.
Doesn't
Clark,
it
you're getting ready to jump in on that.
Oh, well, I'll say something.
Please.
Oh, am I on?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think my experience, the treasurer should probably do it and give it to the president, get him going, because otherwise the president may not know, either that, how to do it, and also what the, what elements should be in there, and, some at least preliminary guides, and let them go from there.
The way we do it is that I prepare the budget, but then the president and I get together usually in a separate meeting before the board meeting,
Yes.
where we go over it all, and it works out real well.
I think it also depends on if you have a new treasurer or not. If you have an ongoing treasurer, that's easier to do. But if you have somebody who's brand new, I think your president and your treasurer need to work together, looking at past reports. Be my recommendation.
Hey, I would offer that it depends, and it goes just to what Leslie just said. I can tell you that in the Cheyenne Club, we're pretty good about the development of the budget being a board and officer responsibility, which is done normally from a template provided by the treasurer. When I was president, the thing I didn't want to do was blindside the board with a budget. So I made sure that they were involved in that development. So just some thoughts.
The Alamosa Club, what we do is we have a committee, and then it's the president and the treasurer, and then a couple of other board members, and then we meet together and with a template and make the budget, and then we vote on it and everything that way.
Well, let me just give you a little bit more information. We had a budget from last year. We talked about it at a board meeting. There was only a couple of changes that were made from that budget. And then, like I said, 2/3 of the way through the year, the treasurer says to me, well, I never got a budget. And I'm thinking, that was your job to update and hand out to everyone. And so then I called Dawn Ignatius, our lieutenant governor, and she said, yeah, that's a treasurer function. I didn't go back and tell him that. We just got it done. But I was just curious. And like I said, the whole reason I'm here is I want to know whose responsibility that is.
Well, like you said, I think that the president has a responsibility to present the budget. Treasurer can help him do that, but then the board has to approve it. So we've had changes in both places if that happens.
Does that help, Marlene?
Very helpful from all of you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks. Next slide, please, Josephine, please.
One reason it's a good idea that the treasurer and the president do it again separately. Every president usually has their own agenda, and they have certain programs they want to see done. So, and maybe the treasurer doesn't know that until they get together with the president. But by doing it together like that, it makes it a lot smoother.
Great info, Bill. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So the next topic is and that's fine right there, Josephine, for now, is maintaining financial accounts. And there's a lot of discussion usually around what's an administrative account and what's a service account. And once again, let's have this discussion, but let me just kind of set the stage for that. The way I look at it is the administrative account is used for club purposes, and it's looking inward at the membership and the activities of the membership. It collects the membership dues. It pays out the dues in turn to KI and to Kiwanis International, and then whatever expenses the club incurs, whether it's restaurant expenses or room expenses, but anything basically with the club. And then lastly, secretaries and treasurers always have internal expenses, whether it's bank charges or stationery that used to be a thing, and anything associated with the club. And let me contrast that before we get into discussion. If you get next slide, please, Joe. Let me contrast that with a service account. And the service account, the way I try to describe it is it's outward looking. It's part of where you're faced towards the public. So you're asking the public to come to your fundraisers. Those funds should go into the service account. Likewise, the fundraising expenses associated with that should come out of the service account. Now, the reason you're having fundraising is to serve children primarily. So any service project expenses, sponsoring SLP student leadership programs, packing events, anything you do in service to the community, those expenses should come out of the service account. And then lastly, a couple of specific ones. KI has said the liability insurance that is due to Kiwanis International can also come out of the service account, because liability insurance, the only reason you have that is to protect yourself and the public when you have service projects. Similarly, the background check expenses, which increasingly we're going to be seeing more requirements on, because the only reason you're doing that is to work with kids, and that's a service function. So with that as a groundwork, what kind of questions do you guys have between admin and service, and what kind of answers can we provide for you?
I'll ask, so we have a foundation and we don't have a service account. So do all those same things apply on a foundation?
Yeah, that's correct, Leslie. And we'll get into foundations here in just a little bit, but let's just touch on that for a minute. So when clubs have foundations, it's typically to transfer their service activities to a separate entity, to a foundation. And there's other reasons for doing that, but that's one of the primary reasons. The other one being is that when you collect funds from the company, from the public in a foundation context, then it's a donation, and there's tax implications to that, obviously, and the like. So that's the essence of a service account. But does that distinction make sense to people, or is there anything that any of you want to add to that?
Makes sense.
I have a question. So we also did away with our service account a couple years ago, and we just maintained the admin and then the foundation, which is a 501c3. Things like the background check expenses, I thought I've put those all in the admin account.
That's not right.
Would they qualify to be paid out of the 501c3?
Of course they would.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the only reason you have background check expenses is to work with the kids.
Okay.
And that's service. So, and I think probably the other part of this too is when you're analyzing these expenses, because I know that there's been days and years of board meetings talking about admin or service, and I think if you go back to what is the purpose of the expenditure of the income, to me that tends to clarify what which account it would go into, or in a foundation in the case of service. Anything else, Clark?
Yeah, we do some of both. We have, Leslie, as I remember, new members who paid out of the admin account. And if it's for people who are going to become working with kids, then we do it in the service account.
Huh.
I gotcha.
Okay. Anybody else? Chat, is liability insurance included as service? The answer is yes. Although you're collecting that as part of your dues to KI. So that's where things get a little weird. You can pay that out of your insurance, out of the service account. The funds, the liability insurance portion of the KI dues is coming into your admin account as part of dues. So I don't know, does anybody have any experience with moving from admin to service on that, or do you guys just collect the liability insurance through dues and leave it in the admin account and just pay the premium out of service?
Bob?
Yes.
Yeah, what we do, and I think you and I have talked about this before, we just take that total insurance and divide it in half. And so half of it is paid out of the service fund and the other half out of the administrative fund.
Okay. Yeah, which is fine. Again, a lot of this stuff, some of this stuff, after you get through the discussion and the like, pretty soon you're saying, okay, let's come to an agreement and move on.
Right.
So, okay, next slide, please, John. Member dues. This came up with some comments from some of you that have responded here. 3 areas: collection techniques, past due accounts, and billing members joining during the year. Let me get to the middle one first. Typically in your club bylaws, you have a requirement in there that says past due accounts need to be addressed in terms of the members' ongoing membership. And that can cause a lot of pain and agony at board meetings as well, as the board goes through the past due accounts, which my encouragement is at every board meeting, you at least review those and say, is everybody current? And then determine what needs to be done to now we get into collection techniques. How do we approach those members that are past due and what are their circumstances? I'm going to kind of open this up. Hey guys, any thoughts on this or how you address that in your clubs? Other than a bad or public shaming?
I don't think we've had a problem with it.
Well, the membership committee, which is usually about 2 or 3 people, if there's that many people that are past due or in arrears, we divide up who's going to call who, and usually it just a friendly telephone call and a little discussion, and that usually takes care of it.
Yeah, we at Eye Openers, we do go through these, and then we actually, every new member has a sponsor of some sort, whether that's intentional or unintentional. But if somebody brings somebody into the club, kind of want to look over them for the first year or two, and this is part of it, is saying, you know, we noticed your dues are your past due. We've been notified. What's the deal? How can we help you? And see if that will help do that. Anything else on past due or collection techniques? If for any of you that have issues.
The only thing we've done in the past is on anyone who's past due quite a lot, we will talk to them about whether they still want to be members. And if they decide not to be members, we usually will just waive any of the past due amounts. Fortunately, our club can afford to do that, but I'm not sure all clubs can.
Sure. Anybody else?
I have a question. I know this used to be true, but I'm wondering if it's still true. If say your club accidentally doesn't drop someone or they drop after and you still get charged by KI, do they still give you like one freebie and take ability to take that off? I know that was true a couple of years ago, but I don't know if they were still doing that.
Go ahead, Leslie.
I don't think they do. We've had problems where we were past that due date and they didn't allow us to drop. We still had to pay.
Okay.
I think one of the, and obviously that can be up for some negotiation, but I think the thing to keep in mind at the Kiwanis International level, they deal with rosters and the like, and they consider the unit at the KI level as the club, not the member. So that if a club represents that they have 30 members and they owe X amount of dollars, that's what KI expects to get as from a club, not whether or not an individual member pays or not. That was an eye opener for me when I first learned that. At one level it makes sense, and another level it's sort of a bipolar thing almost, to saying, okay, are we members or a club?
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
This is Lee Katz.
Hi, Lee.
What do you do with a member who pays his dues and you never see him?
Thank him.
We have a lot of those.
Well, you know, the bigger question there, I think, Lee, is well, two questions. One is does it matter? But B is, why is that person still paying his dues? And in my mind, that's a communication issue with the club to the member. We have members that do that, and you know, in one case, they have to be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning of our club meetings, but they'll show up for service projects, okay, or they'll keep in touch. And so it's, you know, what does Kiwanis mean to each individual member, I think is where that comes down. But in my mind, it's on the club to make sure that they are fulfilling the needs of their members.
We have about 3 members that basically they pay dues and they help financially, but they don't do a lot of service projects, but they're there financially, and that's okay too.
I think the problem with 2 of these members that we have, I don't think it's a matter of no projects. They don't come to anything. I think it's a matter of, well, one fellow's got, what, 35 years as a member, and he wants to keep his membership till he dies. And so he keeps paying his dues. He's absolutely worthless to the club, as is the other one. So, and nobody wants to talk to him. No, really, because they're afraid he's going to yell at them.
I would argue they're not worthless.
Yeah, I would say they're paying their dues. Yeah.
Well, but he's not a member in group.
Yeah, we have some who've been doing that for 3 or 4 years, and yes, they don't ever participate, but they do help support the club by giving us money. You know, it doesn't hurt anything, and it helps us pay our bills. So.
Right.
Well, I know of several clubs in the past who had nothing but people who paid their dues, and they got on the roster and they sent the roster in, and all they do is pay their dues. What good is it? I mean, if you're not going to be excuse me, a member of the club and participate in the club activities, why do you want to be there? Just because in 4 years you're going to be a 50-year Kiwanian? Big deal.
Yeah, name recognition probably.
Yeah, you know, I guess I would take a little different approach on that, Lee. It's what does Kiwanis mean to those people? They certainly aren't worthless as a member. They just have a different idea on how they want to participate in the club.
Right.
I'll give you an example on a call I had with Stan Soderstrom the other day. KI is reaching out to all the presidents and secretaries of all the clubs during this pandemic deal, just to make sure that they're doing well. And he said he was talking to one president somewhere in the Midwest. The guy was 90 years old. He was in stage 4 of pancreatic cancer. And he says, his Kiwanis is the only thing that's keeping me going. And if that's a way to, if that works for him, applaud him. Have to do that. Now, having said that, for the people, and this is a thought that occurs, is for the people that are paying but aren't participating, is there, from a financial standpoint, is there an opportunity to help those that are struggling and using those funds for that?
Now, that's a point. We'll look into that a little more, Bob. Thanks.
Sure. Anything else? Building members joining during the year. My understanding for KI and district, it's $50 for the rest of the year. And,
That's
and then whatever club dues are maybe associated with that.
Okay, that starts again in October. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if somebody were joined today, it'd be $50.
Yeah.
No.
I thought it was through September 30th. It was waived.
Yes, through September 30th.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. And I think in October 1st it's $50, but I do need to double check that, and I'll get back on that.
I think it is.
So, and it points out that you need to have some skin in the game ultimately to do this with dues coming on. So,
and that's true of the district too, right?
Correct. Is that right? Is that right, Clark?
District?
Yes. This district has waived the dues.
We waived the dues altogether, yeah.
Right.
It doesn't charge member fees anyway. We don't. So it's always free from our perspective. So
okay, I'm going to say something if I can jump in for a minute. With the Lakewood group, we do dues monthly, but they have the option if they want to set up to do quarterly or yearly also. We keep our dues lower right now because of COVID. We changed actually and made a board decision that to do a monthly $25 a month instead of our normal 55, which included meals, since we weren't eating. So I think a lot of clubs have had to adjust their finances maybe a little bit because of the changes with COVID. With our treasurer, our board gave her a letter that says if they have not paid their dues by the 3rd month, this letter goes out saying, you know, a friendly reminder, please set up your payment arrangements and contact us, and this is how much you are in arrears. We've also changed from mailing or giving out at the meetings their invoice for how much they owe for dues. That also shows, you know, when they've paid. And we've gone to an email billing, which is obviously cheaper than mailing. And I'm finding, and that's something I might ask Dominic to jump in too, but I noticed in our division, and I don't know about other divisions, everybody's dues are different based on how much they keep for their own club, which could be a deciding factor with new members joining on, well, if I join this club, it costs this much. If I join this club, it costs that much. Because technically the dues that go to national and district and that would only come up to about $130, but you've got clubs that are charging, let's say $400 or $25 a month, which might be $300, or another club charging a different amount because it includes their breakfasts and they're back to meeting again. So I'm seeing a discrepancy in the dues amounts per each club. And then I also had a question, if say you have a member that pays their dues totally upfront, you know, for October 1st, and then they decide they want to go to a different club, it's transferable. I'm pretty sure going through the international that they would not have to pay into the new club they transferred to because their entire year's dues. But if they charge so much more, then that club just gets to keep the dues and only what international transfers is the membership. Does that make sense? Josephine, jump in on that one.
What if I knew the answer? I don't know the answer about transferring dues. I can find out. And I know every club is different. Like for Wheatland, for example, my home club charge a new member fee at all. So right now, to become a member of our club, it would be completely free because International's free right now. Doesn't charge a new member fee, and our club doesn't charge. So it's free until October 1 for our club, but every club, like you said, is completely different based on meals or, I don't know, Bob, is there an answer to that? Like, is there an average amount of dues statistically clubs charge?
No, it varies all over the place because it's the club that's a differentiator. It's the Kiwanis International dues. It's the Rocky Mountain District dues. Those are constant.
Right.
But the clubs, depending on the club, some meet on restaurants, some collect meals, some have room rent, some have whatever. And I think that's probably a club decision as much as anything else. A, how much you're going to charge a new member or current member, and B, how much you're going to keep or refund to a member that's departing.
Yeah, Bob. Leslie, who's here, Leslie Fairborn's our treasurer, and she's charging us the dues less the cost of the meals while we're doing the pandemic, doing it that way.
Which is only fair.
I think at core it's a club decision.
Well, what does it cost if you're in more than one club? Again, are you only under the rules of the club that you're joining? So say you're in 2 clubs. You go by the rules for each club and they could be different then, am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
You go by the rules of each club.
Any other comments or thoughts? Okay. Let's move on, Joe. It's been a good discussion. Next slide, please, Joe.
Yeah, I was just going to say we stopped charging for meals quite a while ago, and that seemed to make a big difference. People, we charge, we take the total for the year for what we pay Kiwanis International and the Rocky Mountain District, and then we add about $8 per member for what I call administrative costs. That helps pay for office supplies, et cetera, et cetera. So we keep our dues pretty low. It's $51 a quarter, and that seems to work, but meals are no longer a part of that.
Send me an application, Bill.
Say what? Oh, yeah, okay.
Send me an application. I like your club.
The other thing that we did, and we can talk about more when we get to the foundation, but one of our members suggested that a lot of members are used to paying for the full amount with breakfast. And with the breakfast savings, he suggested, and our board approved, that anyone who wanted to donate that portion of their dues to our foundation, and we actually did a line item of COVID-19 fund, that we will identify community charities that are in a special need right now, and we will donate to them that money. And through that, we've raised about, at this point, over $3,700, which is nice because it takes place of us losing out on some of the fundraising that we would normally be doing during the year.
Oh, good. Thank you, Leslie. Moving on to financial reporting for a moment, and this is probably one of the primary roles of the treasurer. First item here, it says prepare monthly financial statements for the board. I'll just qualify that by saying, however often the board meets, there should be a financial statement for the board. Some boards meet monthly, some meet quarterly, some meet, who knows, excuse me. But probably the other one is that your bylaws do require an annual club meeting, and at that meeting, it's a good idea to present an annual summary of the previous year to present at the annual club meeting as well. It's also in the bylaws that there's a financial review committee that should be formed, and to provide the books and records for an audit. And in an audit, as a CPA, when I see the words audit, I just kind of head for the door. But what an audit really is in this context is a group of people getting together. Hopefully somebody has some financial background in that, but 2 or 3 members to just sit down with the treasurer, go through the books and saying, what was this expense for? What was this income for? What did you do with this? How was the trip to the Caymans? And then just kind of put an item to the board saying, we've reviewed this and it's in good shape and we need to keep the treasurer. So, but it's a more of an informal meeting than it is a true audit. Having said that, you may choose to use an outside accounting or auditing firm. As Clark can attest to, the KI now requires us as a district to have an outside accounting firm do what's called a compilation of the financial statements, as well as preparing the tax return in order to maintain in good standing. And Clark can share some horror stories on that, but I think fortunately we're back on good graces now with KI. But the only point in that is if you don't need to spend the money for an accounting firm, try to get it done internally. But it's just it's a good governance item to consider for the treasurer's protection as well as for the clubs. Does that make sense?
If you do that, it's like if a CPA firm does it, more like $1,200, isn't it? I mean, that's
right. And these are member dues. These are member dues that you're paying this out of.
I'm going to also say, when you want to audit your own books and things, sometimes having another club within your division, their treasurer, somebody who's familiar with Kiwanis expenses, makes an excellent one to help review your books. So a lot of people don't think about using someone within your division or district to do that rather than paying to have an outside accounting firm come in.
That's a really good idea. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, Bob, I'm wondering, we combined the 990 with the audit together, and it's done by, well, you know Dave Cole probably. It's done by a CPA and an accounting firm, but the 990 and the annual audit are all lumped as one charge. We only pay $500 a year for that.
And then, yeah, that's good to know, because that's what, well, go ahead, Clark.
No, that's right. That sounds good.
That's what we did at the district level this last year too. We engaged an accounting firm, and they combined the tax return, the 990, and the financial statement compilation as one fee.
The only thing about the 990 though, Bob, is that like for our club, we would not generally be above $50,000, so we wouldn't need to have a full 990 anyway.
Correct. Yeah, this is a function of size for the tax return you have to file.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts or comments on that, Leslie?
I have a question about doing the annual summary at the annual club meeting. So the annual club meeting is supposed to be in May. So do you do the report from the previous fiscal year, or a year to date, or what?
My thought is for the prior year.
Okay.
You said
Anybody else have any other?
You said your annual meeting was in May?
By KI, that's when it's supposed to be, when we do our election,
Oh.
we do our annual
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, but I was thinking more in terms of the annual is actually October to September.
Right, and that's what my question really was about, was because the fiscal year is October through September, but yet you're reporting in May, and I wasn't sure.
You're reporting on the prior fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, one thing on that one, I think, yeah, that makes sense to do it the prior year, but if there's something special going on that you need to report on in the current year, like, you know, if you're having to have a dues increase, or, you know, you have some kind of financial problem, I think I would do that too, though.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile to do an update as an example.
Yeah, an update, that's what I mean, yeah.
But to say that here's what it is. Here's how we did last year. We compared it against budget, and here's what we're doing going forward. But in the meantime, since October 1st or September 30th, this has happened. We've had our service projects, our fundraising projects canceled. We haven't, although we budgeted for district convention and international convention, those weren't held. So we've achieved savings there, and it just big items that have occurred since.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Speaking of annual budget, oh, sorry, I keep forgetting I can't do that. Sorry. Thanks, Josephine. And again, this goes back to Marlene's questions and comments. Is the annual budget? You do work with the president. The president's going to lay out the vision for the club. And in that vision, there's going to be expenses and income items. And so work with them to prepare both an administrative account budget and a service account or foundation budget account budget. And then the administrative account really is, and you guys can talk to this better than I, the administrative account is pretty vanilla. You collect dues, you pay dues, you pay meals, you pay whatever. It's a pretty simple budget compared to the service account. The service account is going to have, what are your fundraisers? What do you expect? What expenses do you expect to get out of that? Where do you want to spend your money? The funds, how do you want to support your SLPs, whatever projects you may have. And a lot of that may be based on prior years, and a lot of it will be based on what the president wants to do this year. We've had, in the eye openers, we've had cases where the president says, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore on a project. And so we take that out of the budget, and he goes, we're going to do this instead. So we put that in the budget. But it goes back to Marlene's comments at the front end of this. It's important to work with the president to develop these budgets. Any questions, comments on that?
Well, Bob, yeah, one thing, because I know this isn't always done. I think it's a good idea when you're doing the annual budget to, if you can seasonalize it, by quarter, by month, whatever. So that as the year goes on, you can tell where you stand. And you can build it into QuickBooks too. You know, put your budget in as opposed to
by month or by quarter. Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good comment. Anybody? Oh, just to finish the slide up, and then the budgets when you put the budgets together, and that speaks a little bit to Clark's seasonality as well, is compare the actual report, the actual financial statements to what you budgeted for, both in the board meetings and in the annual summary. The board needs to know, and the club needs to know what we planned on, how things turned out, and how we go forward. And this is one way of doing that. And a lot of this, quite honestly, too, is education for not only for the board but for the members who may not be financially aware of all that goes on at the board meetings, where all of the income and the expenses are accounted for. Thoughts on that? Okay, next slide, Joe. Accounting system. There were some questions on what type of accounting systems various people use. You've been watching me try to do a mouse thing, Joe. The big net ones are QuickBooks and Quicken, and both of those have online versions and desktop versions. There may be other reports. Some may be using spreadsheets. But those are the two big ones, and welcome some comments and thoughts on two things. One is QuickBooks versus Quicken, and then online versus desktop. Any thoughts on that? Bill? Are you raising your hand, Bill, or is that?
Resting.
Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in again.
Yes, please.
We don't use QuickBooks in our Lakewood system. We use Excel, which is a spreadsheet, which keeps track of a detailedness of the bank ledger, actually, because that is our bank ledger or checkbook, basically using the Excel sheet, which makes it easier to compare the bank ledger then to the actual bank statement, to make sure that the money matches, kind of like a checks and balances, that the ledger matches what we actually have in our accounts. And that's really kind of important to have a checks and balances. Plus, we have, besides the treasurer on the account, we have the president and one other club member, which could be maybe an accountant or somebody that has, where we can go online at any time of day and look at the Kiwanis account and see what the funds are. And that's a good thing to do for a checks and balances.
One thing about QuickBooks is you can generate just about any kind of a report you want. And we use Excel for doing the budget, but for as far as daily keeping track of everything is on QuickBooks. And you really can't beat QuickBooks, especially when you're trying to get to the end of the year and get your work papers ready for the 990. It's just pretty much is really simple by using QuickBooks. I just do encourage everybody to actually use that.
Yeah, QuickBooks, you can do, their bank reconciliation is really good, I think. You know, that like Catherine, I mean, you can just do that and it'll just check off against the bank account. I mean, Excel works too. I mean, but you can do it that way. I would say too, the online version is one to consider as well on QuickBooks. Then more than one person can use it, and you can do it from anywhere, as opposed to having it in your hard drive. It's a little more expensive though, but it has the same features basically.
I would say just Josephine's just giving me the 10-minute hook here. So we need to move on. But I would say, you know, what works for you guys works best. Whatever you can transfer as you move out of your treasurer role at some point in time, that's easily transferable to a new treasurer or somebody to have or said, to have more people on the bank accounts, but also have more people have access to the records, and whatever that means. Yes, I agree.
I was one of the people who asked this question, and I have been treasurer for a year and a half, and I inherited a series of Excel spreadsheets, and I would really like to look into QuickBooks or Quicken, and I see here that Clark Morrell and Bill Hurt both mentioned using them. Could I maybe contact them? What clubs are you with?
Sure. I'm with Untitled Jefferson, as is Leslie Fierborn, who's here today too. But yeah, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
One thing I'll just throw in, Ruth Ann, is that Clark was our previous treasurer, and he actually had QuickBooks, so our club bought one when I started, and I got it through Costco. So if you remember, at Costco, it's cheaper than what I found anywhere else.
Great. Okay.
And this is Michelle Hoffner. Sorry to belabor this. Two quick things. We are going to attempt to use a service called SlickPie, which is basically a free for nonprofits version of or a copy, whatever you want to call it. It does the same thing as QuickBooks. So I wanted to throw that out there. But a quick question for you guys that are using QuickBooks. Do you know, does it have the functionality? Do you use it to also track receipt of donations that are not cash based? So for example, we just got $1,000 in gift cards donated to us by King Soopers, and we were looking for the best way to track that. Do you guys use your QuickBooks or those to track those types of things, or do you track it separately and just stick to what the cash in and out is in your QuickBooks?
I can tell you from Eye Opener's standpoint, we do track that. We put that in a line, and the details of that I'd have to refer to our treasurer, Dan Hemphill, and John Crowfoot, but yes, we do that. If you'd allow me just to move on, we have about 5 minutes left, and this has been a great conversation. We may want to continue this stuff in a separate context at some point. At the end of the evening, I'll throw in an idea that may be of use to you. But just to, let's go through the next slide, if we can, Jolene, or Joe, I mean. Just a quick thing on maintaining club records. Here's a list of things, and that we'll have the PowerPoint available to you to go through this in more detail, but it's broken out into 2 categories. The upper categories, club checkbooks through bank statements. There's budget files. There's a timeline for that, primarily with the IRS. It's 7 years. The bottom ones are more permanent: income tax returns, Secretary of State, and documents required by law. Next slide, please. And I'm sorry to blast through this here, but we're just about out of time. Again, this lists, the budgets, and typically these are the IRS requirements for anything. IRS can audit your books for 6 years. And it may not seem as a big deal on a nonprofit. It can be. The upside of that, I suppose, is that the IRS doesn't have any staff around to audit these books, but it's good governance to keep these records at this point in time. Next slide is the other group. It's the permanently. You should keep those, and typically you can move these over to the club secretary for archival purposes. The financial statements, the income tax returns, Secretary of State reports, and documents and correspondence required by law. Any quick questions on that before we move on? And again, I apologize for running out of time here. If not, let's go to next slide. Question came up about digital versus paper. Either is acceptable. Digital, the same way with QuickBooks Online or Quicken Online, even our Excel Online, is that if you can put it up into the cloud, it's accessible, it's secure, and you don't have to worry about it getting waterlogged in your garage with the banker boxes. But you could do more.
I would say definitely back it up with some secure backup.
Yes, yeah, and that's where the cloud storage helps to get that. But if you're going to back it up, do backup copies, a USB drive, and then the last thing on that is label the destruction dates. So the 7 years or the permanent, so that you can get rid of them. And again, it doesn't fill your garage too much with paper files if that's the choice you go. Next slide, please. Legal filing requirements, you're a corporation, so you have an annual filing with the Secretary of State. I'm not sure about the Nebraska and Wyoming requirements, but Colorado is an annual report. You can get reminders set up to file that. It's pretty nominal to do. It's $10 if you get there on time. It's $60 if you don't. And so we really subscribe to the signing up for email notifications, and that occurs about 3 months in advance. Tax returns, they're due, Form 990 is due on the 15th of the 5th month after the close of the year. So that's February 15th for these clubs. And the 990 varies the amount of work that is required based on the amount of gross receipts that you have. Sorry, next slide. Club foundations, we talked about that a little bit earlier. You are a public charity. You're organized under 501c3, so the public can see your books, the donors can take deductions, separate bank accounts used for the service activities, and it usually replaces the club service account. There is the legal requirements. I think this is almost the last slide here, Joe. Again, annual filing, there's a separate filing as a charitable organization too with the Secretaries of State, and just be aware of that.
That's just considered, there are 2 of them. Yeah, there's both of those, yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. And are we out of time yet, Joe?
We have 2 minutes.
Okay, all right. One other thing, and again, thank you for spending an hour doing this. One of the things that I'll throw out to you, since we had, I think, some really good discussion here at one point, if any of you are interested in putting together either a private forum or an application that allows you to ask questions of other treasurers and be part of a treasurer community in the Rocky Mountain District, please send Josephine a copy or your interest in that, and we'll see what we can do to set up that up. That's all I got. This young man wants to get back on the playground, so with any other questions on that, and happy to answer questions too. Please contact me. You have my contact information as well.
Hey Bob, I
yes.
just wanted to add something. For those of you who don't know, last year we initiated what we are calling the Robert or Bob Garrettson Treasurer Award. And our first recipient of that was Bob Garrettson, known to many of us as Gandalf. So that will also be his legacy, that will continue. And I hope that those of you who have outstanding treasurers will consider submitting the treasurer for the Bob Garrettson Award.
Yeah, we hope it lasts longer than 1 year. So. Any other questions or comments before we close? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question,
again, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you again sometime.
Okay, real quick question for Joe though. Josephine, so do we have to log out and then start all over for the next session at 2 o'clock?
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, because it's a different room, it's like you go to a forum, so you go into one room and then we have to empty everyone out and let the new people back in. It's a new link, so that's why.
And the last chat where we get copies of the slides, yes, you'll get copies of the slides, and we'll have some resources from KI to send to you as well. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.